For my narrative review, I am reviewing the same photographs of the person that I have been following all semester, Spencer Sabwell. Spencer has done a very good job of relaying his message of nightmare to the audience. His subject is some sort of entity that I could see popping up in anyone's nightmare. Spencer shot this entity in an eerie and haunting way. He shot the main character at night, and the character seems to be following and mocking you through the series of photographs. The mask that the entity is wearing shows no expressions, but the movements and tilts of the head of the character are giving the observer a sense of uneasiness that follows you throughout the photographs. The observer is transported to what seems to be a parking structure, and at every turn, the masked character is following, taunting, giving the audience that uncomfortable feeling of being followed. I feel there are several good images that give an uncomfortable feeling, such as this one. In this photograph, you get a small glimpse of the character's head and hand as it seems to be following you as you climb up the stairwell. Using the diagonal line of the railing gives you that sense of distance. It starts at the far left bottom of the photograph, and your eye follows it until your eye is drawn to the subject with its immense stare. The mesh stairwell and gray concrete emphasize the harsh black hood and the stark white mask, making you feel very uncomfortable. In this photograph, the entity is photographed behind glass. The photo is out of focus, which gives the photo a more ominous look. The photo makes you feel that you are being followed and that you are in a hurry to get away. The vertical lines of the bar in the foreground and the diagonal and horizontal lines of the windows give the photograph interesting symmetric shapes. In this photograph, the entity again is not in focus, but it gives the viewer a sense that you are seeing the entity from a distance and that you're not sure what you are seeing or if it's real. The entity is sitting against a concrete barrier and waiting. The horizontal line and the vertical lines of the pillar draw your eye to the entity, and behind the entity on the wall is a drawn chalk face, which along with the entity seem to be watching and mocking you. In this photograph, the entity is being photographed in black and white. The varying shades and tones of the interior front windshield frame the entity's stark white face, emphasizing the vertical cracks in its face. This photo makes you feel like you are being run down by the entity and that this is your last look at life. In this photograph, the entity is photographed from below. The contrast of the darkness of the night with the bright vertical lines of the orange reflector and round white circles of the headlights give the observer what seems to be the lost look of life after they have been run down by the entity. Spencer did a really good job with all of his photos, but there's still some room for improvement. I think he did a really good job of telling a story and letting your imagination make up parts too. The only thing that I may, suggest would be to have more photos done in black and white. Overall, I feel like Spencer did a good job on the first part of his narrative project. I feel like he really did a good job emphasizing the entity as some sort of nightmare and telling a good story with it. He did a good job with all of his photos. I really like the blurry ones mostly because it gave you that eerie feeling of, maybe this is not real, maybe it is. And it was actually really interesting and really cool. I hope he does a really good job and kind of want to see what he does with the second part.